What's up everyone, Dave here with another exciting tutorial, and today I want to talk about different tips and tricks in ZBrush. Okay, specifically we're going to be looking at creating fingernails using masks. I'm going to show you how to create fingerprints by importing alphas, how to do some wrinkles, how to do some veins. So enough of the intro, let's go ahead and kind of dive right in. So the first thing I want to kind of start with are fingernails. So I feel like if I come in here, the way that I'm going to create a fingernail is I'm going to hold down Control and I'm simply going to mask where I want the fingernail to be. Okay, like that. And I could mask all the fingers, but I'm just going to kind of demonstrate on this one right now. Then I'm going to switch to Move Brush. And to invert the mask, Control, click on nothing. Okay, now I'm going to make my brush bigger. And then I'm just going to pull this out just a little bit. Like this. You can see it doesn't take much. And notice I'm pulling on this end here, not the other end. For the other end, I'm going to Control click on nothing to invert the mask, and then I'm going to kind of go like this. Okay. And again, very subtle, maybe push up on the side a little bit. Okay, cool. Then if I can Control drag on nothing, I can see that, hey, cool, I've created a fingernail. Now, if your character had maybe longer like claws or longer fingernails, maybe you'd want to maybe extract another subtool or something along those lines. But in this case, I feel like I'm kind of digging, how that looks, and maybe I kind of bring that up. So again, mask off, and then using the move brush, pull down, and then using the move brush, pull on the other side. Okay, so another kind of cool trick is fingerprints, adding fingerprints. Let's take a look at that. Now this might be a little bit of overkill, but I feel like just kind of a good example of the level of detail that we can get in ZBrush. Now for this, we're going to need really a lot of resolution, and I can see that I'm right around 400,000 polys. So if I divide this up, and I'm going to just smooth this out right now, just so we have kind of a clean base to work with. Okay, cool. So now if I divide this up, 1.7 mil, 7 million, that should be enough, okay? And if you're like, well, Dave, how am I gonna know if it's enough? Well, I feel like if you try it and if it doesn't work, you might need more resolution, but I think 7 million should be good. So if I go to Alpha over here, and then if I come down here to import, well, first of all, these are the given alphas, the starting alphas that they give us. But if I come down here to import, now I can choose fingerprint. Okay, this is just a black and white image of obviously a fingerprint, and it was square, and I can see that it was 900 pixels by 900 pixels. I could create my own alpha in Photoshop, or I could maybe find an image online. I'll show some other resources where you can actually download it right from ZBrush's website. But I feel like that's a good start. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the layer brush. So I just pressed L for layer. I'm going to click on the layer brush. I'm going to click here on drag rectangle, and then I'm going to switch my alpha to the fingerprint. Now, this is not pressure sensitive if you're using a pen or anything like that. So I want to make sure that I lower my intensity. And when I click and drag, I can see that fingerprint come on, and I can kind of rotate it around until I like it. Okay. Now I feel like if we look here, it looks like the fingernail is sticking up. So maybe I want it to be the other way. So I could go with Z sub. And now it looks like the fingerprint is kind of digging in. Okay. So that probably makes more sense than sticking up. So again, if I go like that, and if it feels a little pixelated, that might be because you might need more resolution. I'm just going to kind of hold down Shift and kind of tap just a little bit. And I feel like what I call is, it kind of breaks up the specular highlight. And what I mean by that is, it's not that somebody would necessarily notice the fingerprint. It's that I'm going to think about it as if the tip of the finger is baby smooth. So let's say if I smoothed it out, if it's baby smooth, it feels like it's really, I think baby smooth is a good way to say it. It looks like baby skin, right? But when you start putting these kind of quote unquote imperfections in, and it breaks up the specular highlight, I feel like it's going to feel more like skin and a lot more natural. Okay, so that is importing kind of a custom alpha. So if we wanted to bring in different alphas, one resource is I could go to the ZBrush website, and under alphas, I can see that they have an alpha library. I'll put a link to this below, but if the link doesn't work, realize that ZBrush was recently bought out by a different company. I can see that this is still a Pixelogic link, and it's owned by Maxon now. So I'm not sure how much longer this link will work. So what I did is just Google search ZBrush Alpha, and so if they move this website, you'll be able to still find it. But anyway, if we look here, I can see some different alphas. You can see some industrial like bolts. Here's some different skins, some different wrinkles. So again, I feel like obviously some of these are going to be more useful than others, but I feel like really cool kind of get you thinking about some different kind of potentials. Okay, now with the fingerprint idea, you can see that like if you go online and if you find maybe a picture of a fingerprint or something like that, now the thing with it is that let's say if you found a picture of a fingerprint and it was white background with a black fingerprint, which is most likely what it's going to be if we look at all these examples. Mine was inverted. So what I did was I brought it into Photoshop and inverted the image, because where you want the effect to happen is going to need to be white, and where there's no effect happening, it would have to be black. And why I say effect is because I can't say up or down. That depends on Z add or Z sub. It's where the effect is going to happen. In other words, where the stamp is going to play a part. Now, let's say if you weren't happy with any of these, you didn't find anything online, you could always go to good old Photoshop, and I could go like this, new file. And the most important thing is that I want it to be square, okay? So my example fingerprint was 900 pixels by 900 pixels, create. And now I can see that this is square. Now if I paint black, so I just went to the paint bucket and made sure black was right here. And if I filled it black, now that's going to be kind of my base. And I'm just going to create a plus sign, the plus sign here on my layers. If we don't see layers, I'm going to go to Window, make sure Layers is turned on. And then I've got a new layer here. And maybe if I go to this brush, I could create something. So if I went like, I don't know, like this, whoop, I need white now. And again, white is going to be where the effect is happening. Okay, so again, super kind of cheesy, but I feel like enough to get the point across. So maybe I'll come in with my eraser, and this is kind of a cool way to get some like kind of sharper points, especially if you're using like something like a mouse or something and you don't have pressure sensitivity. I'm just kind of erasing the ends, whoa, instead of like trying to get a nice sharp point. But let's say if I was trying to create like a wrinkle alpha or something along those lines. I get something like this going. Maybe I hit Control T or Command T to kind of like, I don't know, make it a little bit wider. And okay, let's say if I like that, I can go File. I'm going to say Save as a copy. And then I'm going to save this onto my desktop. Whoop, let me see. And I'm going to save it as a JPEG. Okay. And I'm going to call this Wrinkle. Okay. Saving on the desktop, called Wrinkle JPEG, save. Okay. Now if I come back into ZBrush, I'm going to come back here. And again, I'm still in layer brush, still in drag rectangle. Then I can come here and say import, and I can grab wrinkle. And again, it's not to say that white is where it's up or down. White is where there's going to be effect. Black is zero effect. And if I come here, great, I can see the wrinkle is imported. I can see that the size was 900 by 900. If I wanted to see kind of the existing ones, I can see that this one is only 256 pixels by 256 pixels. This one's 128 pixels by 128 pixels. So I feel like you can kind of get a sense of the size that ZBrush is kind of suggesting for these alphas. But, and this was kind of similar to the alpha that I just created, but I'm gonna go with this one here. And I'm gonna have Z sub with maybe a little bit higher intensity. So instead of maybe going in with DamStandard brush and dragging a lot of wrinkles across here one by one, now I can go like this and create some wrinkles across like where the knuckles would be. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of lower the intensity a little bit and go like that. Now again, hey, does that look a little cheesy? Yeah, maybe it does. Oh, it looks like my fingerprint went on the other side here accidentally. But I feel like, you know, you'd want to take some time and kind of like care about this a little bit more and put some effort into it. But I feel like you can kind of start to see the potential, right? So again, I've got the custom alpha here that I imported, whether it was from an image or if it was custom made. And we also talked about so far the fingernail technique. But let's just kind of talk about a few more techniques here. One other technique that I want to talk about is kind of creating tight folds like this. Okay, so let's say I'm just going to lower my subdivisions a little bit. And let's say if I didn't have this nice kind of crease here, I'm just going to smooth it out. Okay, let's say if I was just kind of getting started and I didn't really have a nice tight crease. Okay, and I'm like, ooh, I want that, right? I'm going to show a couple ways. Okay, one of the best brushes to make a tight crease is going to be DamStandard. Okay, so if I click on this, I can see I'm just going to leave this alone here, and then I can go like this, and I can come here and I can kind of go like this. Just make a nice kind of quote unquote tight crease. Okay, cool. And okay, sometimes that looks pretty good, but sometimes it feels like maybe it's missing something. Okay, so I'm going to just undo that. Another way that I can kind of create a tight crease is I'm going to mask off. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to go ahead and mask off an area like this. And I want you to think about it as I'm protecting that area. Okay, similar to what we did with the fingernails. But this way, I'm going to mask off this area. Then I'm going to go with my move brush. And I'm going to simply just kind of pull that out a little bit. And you can feel, it almost feels like the weight of the finger kind of, and maybe I hold down Shift, smooth it out a little bit. But when I clear this, you can see that that created a tight crease. Okay, so that's really cool. I just masked, and then I just moved the top part down. Then maybe I want to kind of complement this crease with maybe DamStandard coming in just a little bit to help areas if necessary. So again, DamStandard and the masking with the move brush are great ways to create tight creases. And you can see obviously all the tight creases we would need in the hand. Okay, and the last kind of tip I'm going to leave you with are creating natural veins. Okay, so for natural veins, what I would suggest is something like the standard brush with a nice soft alpha. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make when creating veins is if I make a vein, okay, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. If I make a vein, it's going to look unnatural, okay? And the main reason that it looks unnatural is the starting point and the ending point, okay? The other thing is that maybe I'm not sure if I want to do the vein or not, okay? And I know that sounds kind of weird, but let's do this. I'm going to go over to layers, and in layers, I'm going to click on this plus, and now it's going to create a new layer, and it says, hey, the highest subdivision has to be active. So I'm going to go here, make sure that I'm on the highest subdivision. Sorry about that. My dogs get really excited when I talk about layers. I apologize. So what I was saying is I'm going to put this to the highest subdivision level. Then if I come down here, I'm going to go to layers. And now I can create a new layer. okay? And I can see that the layer is recording with this recording button, and I can see the orange sliders all the way up. Now if I put a line on, I can see that it's going to be part of this, and I'll show that in a second. But before I do, I just want to kind of point something out, that I feel like the best way to make a vein look like it's more natural is I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to kind of smooth, I'm going to call it the entry point, and smooth this end here. Okay, so smooth kind of where it's going in, and then it kind of comes up near the surface, then it kind of goes back in. Okay, so I feel like I can see this texture on the hand. I can kind of like add that later, but I feel like it's kind of these entry points that where it's important. Okay, now what's neat is because I did this on a layer, I can now choose to kind of bring that intensity down. And if I bring it down to 0, it's as if I never did anything. And if I bring it up, I can see that I can kind of like get a percentage of what I want. Okay, now I can see that if I didn't want to view it, I could turn this off or turn it on. If I wanted to continue, I would have to hit this record button. And then I would also want to make sure that it's all the way up to 1. I'm going to put it all the way up to 1, hit the record button. Then I need to make sure that my geometry is set all the way to the highest level. I feel like sometimes if I'm working, it's kind of annoying to remember if I've got this record button on, that I'm on a layer. It's kind of annoying. So what I do is after I'm done working on a layer, I'd kind of like play with it like, okay, yeah, I like maybe that intensity. I like that. That looks nice. And if I wanted to commit to the layer, I'm going to click on Bake All, and that's going to bake it in as if I never created a layer. Okay, so just kind of like an insurance policy, if you will, where you can try things out, change the intensity of it, and just kind of see if it's working or not. Again, any of these things, the fingerprint, the wrinkles, the fingernails, I could have done those on layers, but I feel like the veins are actually one thing that I like to put on layers because I'm kind of not sure if I want them or not. They seem kind of like, I don't know, they seem a little, they can be overdone. They can be easily overdone. You don't want it to compromise your work. So hopefully you found that helpful. These are just some kind of tips and tricks that I enjoy in ZBrush. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe for new videos every week.